Hi students, this is Mrs. Mitchell, and today we're talking about multiplying and dividing decimals, but from word problems. So we're going to look at a few different word problems that are from iExcel and annotate them, figure out if we're multiplying or dividing, and then solve them. So I first want to draw your attention to this right here. This is a review of annotating word problems from last week. Annotating word problems. It was actually called close reading word problems, same thing. But I just wanted to, what happened there? I just wanted to remind you that, that this is what you learned last week. You read the problem, make sure you know what it's asking, mark it up, meaning underline and circle things that are important, figure out what is actually applies to that, to what you're trying to figure out. Draw a picture, and then you begin to solve it. So I'll go ahead and link this video up in the corner somewhere around this area if you would like to review that video. And just keep that in your mind as we're going through this. Okay, so this first one we're going to read. Let's go ahead and get into it. Mr. Singer's choir is going to New York City for a choir competition. He wants them to look their best, so he buys new music folders for all of the members. Each music folder costs $7.99. If Mr. Singer buys 23 music folders, how much does he spend? All right, so I'm going to read it again and mark it up this time. Mr. Singer's choir is going to New York City for a choir competition. He wants them to look their best, so he buys new music folders. Okay, so he's spending money for all of the members. Each music folder costs $7.99. We've talked a lot about this word each, and we're going to get back to that in just a second. If Mr. Singer buys 23 music folders, how much does he spend? Okay, so there's a couple of things that I'm noticing right off the bat. How much does he spend is the question, which means my answer is going to be in dollars. I already know that because iExcel put it there for me. So I know that my answer is going to be in dollars and cents. By the way, if your answer is not, if it's, if the answer, for example, was 10.50 and you put 10.5, it counts it wrong. So make sure that you write it how you would write dollars and cents. You'd have to write 10.50 or else it marks it wrong, which is kind of silly. But anyway, okay, so let's make sure we understand what this question is asking. He's buying 23 music folders. Okay, so I'm going to represent a music folder like this, and he's going to buy 23 of those. And each music folder costs $7.99. Sometimes I like to put each one because that just helps me understand that one costs $7.99. Okay, so if one costs $7.99, we want to know how much 23 would cost because that's how many he buys. So in other words, if I had 23 of these folders and each one's costing $7.99, oh gosh, that was not a good folder. I'm not going to draw out 23 of these. That would take a really long time. But I know that I would keep drawing these until I have a total of 23. Okay? And if I want to find out how much he spends on those, I know I'd have to add $7.99 plus $7.99 plus $7.99. And I'd have to do that 23 times. 23 times. Okay, so now we're going to use what we know about operations to apply that to multiplication. Okay, this is just repeated addition. When you're adding the same value, $7.99, $7.99, $7.99, when you're adding that over and over again, that's the same thing as multiplying. So repeated addition means multiply. We want to make sure that we keep that at the forefront of our minds. Okay, so in a different color, we're going to go ahead and look at what that would look like. So that, what is being multiplied here? Well, the folders, which are $7.99. And we're going to have to do that 23 times. So we know it's going to be times 23. What I want you to notice about the way that I line these up, you do not have to line them up by their decimal point when you are multiplying. You don't have to do that like you have to with addition and subtraction. So because the decimal point on 23 would technically be right here, but it doesn't matter because it's at the end. and I don't have to line up the decimal points when I multiply. We're going to talk about what to do with that decimal point when we're done multiplying. Okay, so I'm going to multiply like normal. 3 times 9 is 27. I'll carry my 2. 3 times 9 again, 27, but I have to add 2 more. So that would be 29. Carry my 2 again. And now I'm doing 3 times 7, which is 21, plus 2 more. So that would be 23. Okay, now I'm going to cross out the things that I regrouped because I don't want to get confused when I move on to the tens place. Since I am moving on to the tens place, I'm going to put a 0 here to show that I'm moving on to the tens place. Now I'll do 2 times 9, which is 18, and carry my 1. 2 times 9 again, which is 18, and I'll add my 1 up here, so that's 19. Carry my 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 more is 15. Okay, and now I can add. So 7 plus 0 is 7, 9 plus 8 is 17. Carry my 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 9 is 13. Carry my 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. And then nothing plus 1 is 1. Okay, so now I have to figure out where my decimal point goes in my answer. Now, the rule of thumb, the rule that you can remember is that, here, let me get a different color here. However many decimal places you would have to go back to reach this one is how many you'll move it. Okay, so this is 1, 2 hops, or I could go from the outside in 1, 2 hops. And I don't have any on the 23 because the decimal point would be at the end. It's already at the end, so we don't have any hops to count. So I have to move it twice. So now I can go down here. It's kind of like dropping a fishing line and go over twice. Okay, so it would be 183.77. Now, before I move on, I want to ask myself, is this reasonable? And this is another way that you can know that you put your decimal point in the right spot. So the way I'm going to do that, and you guys did this with adding, is I'm going to round these to whole numbers. These being these, I'm going to round these to whole numbers and then multiply. So 799 would round to 8, and 23 is just 23. So I'm actually going to put the 23 on top this time because the standard algorithm for multiplying works best when the number with the most digits goes on top. So I'll do 23 times 8. And if my answer is close to this, then I know that I probably put my decimal point in the right spot. So 8 times 3 is 24, carry my 2. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2 more is 18. So 184 and 183 is 77. That's pretty close. So I know that my answer is reasonable. And we're done with that one. Okay, go ahead and pause this and take a look at it some more if you need to, or come back to this part if you need to. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to this one. Pamela's Purse Palace received a shipment of new purses. The total cost of the shipment was $287.20. If each purse cost $35.90, how many purses were in the shipment? Okay, so the total cost of the shipment was $287.20. So that's how much they paid for all of the purses that were in the shipment. And each purse, or each one cost $35.90. So how many purses were in the shipment? So we know that our answer is in purses. It is not in money this time, even though the two numbers we have, the two values that are given to us are dollar amounts. Our answer is actually going to be in purses. It will not be a dollar amount. All right, so first I marked it up already. Let me see if I can figure out which operation it is. The total cost of the shipment was $287.20. So that means when this delivery truck came, I don't know if these purses came in a delivery truck, but we're going to pretend that they did. Here's my truck, okay? I guess there would be some wheels up here. Okay, so we've got some purses in here. These are very basic purses. We don't know how many are in here though. Okay, so I'm going to put ... question mark because we don't know how many purses are actually in there. That's what we're trying to figure out. But we know that this entire shipment, meaning however many purses are in there, that it cost $287.20. All right, and we also know that one purse costs $35.90. Okay, so that's all the information that we know. And what we're trying to figure out is if one costs $35.90 and the whole shipment costs $287.20, how many 35.90 purses can you fit into 287.20? Okay, so if you're starting to think about that on your own, you might have already decided that we're using division. Okay, that's fine. But if you weren't sure about that, if you're like, I just don't understand how you knew that that was division, I just want to show you that there's more than one way that you can think about it. Okay, you can also think about how many times can I spend $35.90? How many times, right? So that's going to be the amount of purses until I get 287.20. So what I did there is I'm asking myself, how many times how many purses would there have to be in there to get a total of, that's where I got the equal sign, a total of 287.20. So you could make an algebra problem out of this if you wanted to. I'm trying to solve for the amount of purses, and that's what I know that's what I'm looking for. So I could know that to get this purse over here by itself, I would have to divide both sides. Oh my gosh. I'd have to divide both sides by 35.90. Because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. And I had to use the inverse operation to get rid of the 35.90. So now my answer left would be the cost of, or excuse me, how many purses. I know I'd have to do 287.20 divided by 35.90. So let's go ahead and do that. 287. Oh, I didn't leave myself much room here. Let me do this. Okay. So now I'm going to use a different color. I've got 287.20 divided by 35.90. I'm going to do 35.9 just because I know I don't need that zero for this division. So this is the part where you might be a little rusty and think, whoa, those are really big numbers. So this is how you do division of decimals. If on the outside or with your divisor, if you don't have a whole number, you have to make it a whole number by moving this decimal over one, which is the same as multiplying it by 10. And if you do that, so if I multiplied this bottom, if I multiplied this bottom by 10, I'd also have to do it to the top to make sure I didn't change the value of this, right? So I can multiply this by 10 by moving the decimal over 1. So that's how I'm going to make sure that I have a whole number out here. And then once I have my decimal point moved, I'm going to drag it up to the top so that I don't forget that, because that's how I know where the decimal point goes in my answer. Now comes the tricky part of how do I figure out how many 359s fit into 2,872. That's a very long division, okay? Because 359 won't fit into 2, 28, or 287. So I have to figure out how many 359s fit into 2,872. My approach to this is I'm going to round this to 360 just in my head and tell myself, well, 360 times 10, I know that would be 3,600 because I could just add a 0. And that is clearly too much. So I know that it's going to be something less than 10. So I'm going to just start by trying 9. I could look at that and go, well, is 3,600? I mean, look at it. 3,600 would be more than 359 more. So I know I could probably go down twice. So go down to 8. 10 is too much. I think 9 would be too much because this number is still too much bigger. So I'm going to try 8. And I'm just going to see if it works. So 8 times 9 is 72. Carry my 7. 8 times 5 is 40 plus 7 more is 47. And 8 times 3 is 24 plus 4 more is 28. Oh my goodness. Oh, it goes evenly. So it goes 8 times evenly. Now, if you wanted to, and I could bring down the 0, but it doesn't really matter because it went evenly. If I wanted to, I could have done 359 times 9 and tried that out, and then I would have seen that it was too much, and then I could just go down to 8. So that's the strategy, you guys, when it's really long division like that. And of course, you can always check your answer with a calculator, and that's fine. So I got 8 purses. Um, this is, I know it can look like a lot of work, but it's really about thinking through and figuring out what some of these keywords mean in their context. So that's what I want you to think about. Pause it, come back to this if you need to. For this last one, we're not going to work through it, but I did just want to annotate it and show you how I would illustrate this one. And then you guys can try solving this one on your own. Mrs. Archer is doing a painting project with her art class. She uses a large jug with 28.5 ounces of blue paint to fill 6 smaller bottles. If she divides the paint evenly, how much paint will be in each bottle? So we're looking for how much paint. So our answer is going to be in ounces because they measured the paint in ounces. So I'm going to go ahead and represent this situation with a picture. Here's my bottle of paint, my big bottle of paint right here. And I'm just gonna, there's the paint inside of there, and this is 28.5 ounces. And it's saying she wants to distribute that into 6 smaller bottles. 4, 5, 6. And it says she wants to divide it evenly. So that gives us a hint that we're going to divide because I see the word divide. But I also want you to think about what's actually happening here. So she's taking the 28.5 ounces and she's pouring it out evenly into these 6 containers. So she's taking some out, taking some more out, and she wants it to be an equal amount. Okay. So this is kind of like repeated subtraction. Not kind of like, it is repeated subtraction because she's taking out the same amount every time to make sure that these 6 bottles end up being filled evenly. So that's how you know that you would divide this one. It would be 28.5 divided by 6. And you could work that one out. I just wanted to show you how I would annotate that one and how I understood that to be division. So good luck, you guys. Please reach out to your teachers and let us know if you need any help. Have a good day.